All right, so get this. You're looking at this map of India, right?
Okay.
And right between Mumbai and Gujarat,
Mm-hmm.
you've got this whole corridor that's like about to just explode
Yeah.
with growth
Yeah.
over the next like 2 decades.
Wow.
We're talking new cities,
Okay.
ports, highways,
Mm-hmm.
even a bullet train.
Really?
And within that, you've got these 3 key locations,
Right.
Daman, Vadhavan,
Mm-hmm.
and this ambitious project called NAINA City.
Right.
Each one is on a different timeline, each with its own risks and rewards.
Makes sense.
So where do you fit into this picture?
Yeah.
Where's the smart money for someone like you?
Mm-hmm.
How do you balance those tax benefits with the whole sustainability angle?
Right.
That's what we're diving deep into today.
It's fascinating how these 3 locations are almost like a case study in strategic timing.
Yeah.
You've got Daman, which is already established,
Mm-hmm.
and it's attracting those high net worth individuals
Okay.
who want in on the ground floor.
You want to get in early.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then there's Vadhavan coming online by 2032,
Okay.
a perfect midterm play.
Interesting.
And finally, NAINA City,
Right.
this massive undertaking that's 15 to 20 years out.
Huge.
Understanding how those timelines intersect with your own investment goals is key.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Okay.
Daman is already up and running. It's a sustainable union territory.
Yeah.
And it's attracting those high net worth individuals.
Right.
That suggests a certain level of stability.
It does.
But does that also mean that the biggest gains are already gone?
That's the trade-off, isn't it?
Right.
With Daman, you're mitigating risk.
Yeah.
But the potential for those explosive returns might be lower
I see.
compared to getting in early on Vadhavan or NAINA City.
Right.
What's interesting is that you can actually use Daman as a benchmark.
Oh, okay.
It's like a sneak peek into the future of the entire corridor.
Interesting.
What kind of infrastructure is working well there?
Yeah.
What sectors are thriving?
Mm-hmm.
Those insights can inform your decisions about Vadhavan and NAINA City.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
So if Daman is
Yeah.
Vadhavan is that sweet spot for the midterm investors, right? It's got
Yeah,
that 2032 target date.
Yeah.
And with the new port development, it's clearly aiming to be a major player in the shipping and logistics game.
Exactly. And what's exciting about Vadhavan is that you can already see the pieces falling into place.
Okay.
The connectivity between these 3 locations is incredible.
Yeah.
Roads, railways, metro lines, even that bullet train connecting Mumbai and Ahmedabad.
Wow.
It all feeds into Vadhavan's potential as a train hub.
Okay. And then we have NAINA City,
Right.
which is this huge long-term project.
Yeah.
224 villages, over 470 square kilometers,
It's
aiming
massive.
for almost 4 million people by 2034.
Wow.
It's almost hard to wrap your head around.
It is.
But if we're talking timelines, this is where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
Especially if you're looking for those potentially massive returns, right?
Absolutely. But NAINA City is the ultimate test of patience and strategic vision. This isn't a get-rich-quick scheme.
No.
It's about understanding the phased development plan.
Right.
They've broken it down into the interim development plan, IDP area,
Okay.
then the balance of phase I,
Mhm.
and finally phase 2.
Interesting.
Each phase presents its own opportunities, and knowing where to focus your resources is critical.
So walk us through these phases.
Okay.
What's the logic behind this approach, and where do those early opportunities lie?
The IDT area is all about quick wins.
Okay.
It's the area closest to existing infrastructure and the new airport.
Right.
They want to get things moving there fast, demonstrating progress and attracting early investors.
Makes sense.
Then as those initial investments start generating revenue,
Yeah.
they can funnel it back into developing the rest of Phase I and eventually Phase 2.
Fox.
It's a clever way to bootstrap the development,
Mm-hmm.
but it also means that those who get in early on the IDP area
Yeah.
could see significant returns as the rest of the city catches up.
So it's like a ripple effect,
Yeah,
with each phase building on the success of the previous one.
exactly.
But they're also projecting a lot of revenue from selling land in those designated growth centers.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly are these growth centers, and how do they fit into the bigger picture?
The growth centers are where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Think of them as specialized zones within NAINA City,
Right.
each with a specific focus.
Like what?
Like a sports city, a tourism city, even a film city.
Wow.
The idea is to create clusters of excellence,
Okay.
attracting industry leaders and fostering innovation within those specific sectors.
I see.
And by selling land in these prime locations,
Yeah.
they generate the capital to build out the infrastructure for the entire city.
Interesting.
It's a self-funding model,
Mm-hmm.
which reduces reliance on external financing and gives them more control over the development process.
But hold on. If they're relying on land sales to fund the project,
Yeah,
what happens if those sales don't meet projections?
right.
That seemed like a pretty big risk, especially with a timeline as long as NAINA City.
That's the million-dollar question, and it's something any potential investor needs to consider carefully.
Yeah.
The report itself flags this as a potential challenge, especially in those early years.
Really?
If they can't generate enough revenue from those initial land sales,
Yeah.
the whole project could stall.
Wow.
It all comes down to how effectively they market those growth centers.
Right.
And whether they can attract the right kind of buyers.
So for someone looking at NAINA City,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just about believing in the long-term vision.
Right.
It's about assessing the viability of those growth centers.
Yeah.
And understanding how those early phases are going to play out.
Exactly. It's about looking beyond the glossy brochures and those big promises.
Right.
What's the underlying demand? Who are they targeting?
Mm-hmm.
And how does that translate into concrete investment opportunities for someone like you?
All right. So let's get into the nitty-gritty here.
Okay.
We've talked about those theme-based growth centers. They sound
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
Sports city, tourism city, film city.
Mm-hmm.
But how do those actually translate into profit potential for an investor?
Well, take the film city, for example.
Okay.
India already has a massive film industry.
Right.
But imagine a purpose-built zone
Yeah.
with state-of-the-art studios, post-production facilities,
Wow.
even sound stages catering to international productions.
Really?
If they can offer attractive tax incentives
Yeah.
and streamline the whole process, they could pull in major players,
Right.
creating a whole ecosystem of jobs and ancillary businesses.
Interesting.
And for an investor,
Yeah.
that means everything from real estate to equipment, rental to hospitality could see a boom.
It's almost like they're creating these microeconomies within the larger city,
Yeah,
each with its own specialized workforce and supply chains.
that's exactly the idea.
Wow.
And that specialization is what's going to make NAINA City stand out from the crowd.
Right.
They're not trying to be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
They're focusing on key sectors where they can create a competitive advantage.
And speaking of competitive advantage,
Yeah,
let's talk about that incredible connectivity we touched on earlier.
right.
This whole corridor is being designed with transportation in mind.
Oh,
Right.
absolutely.
Right.
We're not just talking highways and railways.
Sure.
We're talking about a network that integrates sea routes,
Okay.
a brand new airport metro lines within the cities,
Mm-hmm.
and even that bullet train connecting Mumbai and Ahmedabad.
Right.
For businesses, this is a game changer.
Wow.
It streamlines logistics,
Yeah.
reduces transportation costs, and opens up new markets.
You're
From a manufacturing standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
being able to get your goods to port quickly and efficiently, that's gold.
So it sounds like NAINA City, even though it's years away from completion,
Right.
is already strategically positioned to benefit from this broader infrastructure boom.
It is.
But with all this development,
Yeah.
what about the environmental impact?
Mm-hmm.
We can't just ignore that, can we?
Absolutely not. And you're right to bring that up because sustainable development has to be at the forefront of any project this ambitious.
Right.
Luckily, India is really pushing for green initiatives.
Okay.
And there are significant tax benefits for investors who prioritize sustainability.
Okay, so let's talk about those incentives for a second.
Sure.
What are we talking about here?
Well, depending on the specific project,
Uh-huh.
you could be looking at things like accelerated depreciation,
Okay.
tax holidays, even exemptions on import duties for certain green technologies.
Wow.
And it's not just about financial incentives. It's about creating a city that's environmentally responsible and resilient in the long term.
So it's not just about doing good.
Yeah,
It's about making smart business decisions.
exactly.
Yes, I
And
know.
when it comes to NAINA City,
Yeah.
they've designated an eco-sensitive zone to protect those surrounding forests and the Carnala Bird Sanctuary.
Oh, that's good.
But the real question is, how far are they willing to go?
Right.
Are they incorporating renewable energy sources?
Yeah.
Are they investing in efficient water management systems?
Yeah.
Are they prioritizing responsible waste disposal?
That's important.
These are the questions any investor who cares about sustainability needs to be asking.
And this is where due diligence comes in, right?
Yes,
It's
sir.
not enough to just take their word for it.
You need to dig deep,
Right.
look at their track record, scrutinize those environmental impact assessments.
Okay.
Remember, a city that's built on sustainable principles is not only good for the planet,
Yeah.
it's more attractive to residents, businesses, and ultimately investors like you.
So if we're connecting all of this back to our listener,
Mm-hmm.
they're probably thinking, okay, this all sounds amazing, but where do I even begin?
Well, the first step is to honestly assess your own investment goals and risk tolerance.
Okay.
Are you someone who's comfortable with a long-term play like NAINA City,
Right.
where the payoff might be 15 to 20 years down the road?
Yeah.
Or are you looking for something more immediate like Daman,
Mm-hmm.
where you can capitalize on existing growth, but maybe with lower returns.
And if you're somewhere in between,
Right.
there's Vadhavan with its 2032 target date and that focus on shipping and logistics.
Exactly. Once you've got a clear sense of your timeline and risk appetite,
Yeah.
you can start digging deeper into those specific locations.
Okay.
Look at the industries they're targeting, the infrastructure they're developing, the tax incentives they're offering.
hmm
And don't forget about the sustainability angle. Are they walking the walk or are they just talking the talk?
It sounds like the opportunities are there, but it's also a pretty complex landscape to navigate.
It is, but that's what makes it so exciting.
Okay.
And that's where informed decision-making comes in.
Right.
The more you understand the nuances of this corridor,
Yeah.
the different timelines, the potential challenges,
hmm
the better equipped you'll be to make investments that align with your goals and your values.
We've talked a lot about the economic potential, the infrastructure, the sustainability aspects.
Right.
But let's not forget about the human element here.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about building cities from scratch,
Hmm.
potentially impacting the lives of millions of people.
That's such a crucial point, and it's something that often gets overlooked in these discussions.
Yeah.
Those socioeconomic surveys they conducted on the villages that will
Yeah.
become part of NAINA City,
Mm-hmm.
those are a goldmine of information.
Really?
They tell you about the people who live there,
Yeah.
their income levels, their housing situations, their access to health care.
Wow.
And understanding that human context is critical for making responsible investment decisions.
So it's not just about maximizing profits.
No.
It's about ensuring that this development benefits everyone involved.
Exactly. It's about creating a city that's economically vibrant, but also socially inclusive and sustainable for generations to come.
Yeah.
And that's where, as an investor, you have the opportunity to make a real difference.
This has been such a thought-provoking conversation.
It has.
I feel like we've just scratched the surface of what's possible in this corridor between Mumbai and Gujarat.
We really have. And for our listener, the takeaway is this.
Okay.
The decisions you make today have the potential to shape not just your own financial future,
Yeah.
but the future of this entire region.
Wow.
It's an exciting time to be involved in India's growth story,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also a time for careful consideration and a commitment to building a sustainable and equitable future.
It really does feel like we're on the cusp of something extraordinary. But here's the thing.
Yeah,
India is booming with infrastructure development right now.
right.
How does NAINA City differentiate itself from all the other projects vying for attention and investment?
That's the key question for any savvy investor, isn't it?
It is.
And the answer lies in understanding NAINA City's unique value proposition.
Okay.
They're not just building another generic city.
Right.
They're creating a specialized hub that leverages its strategic location, that incredible connectivity we talked about,
Uh-huh.
and its focus on attracting specific industries.
So it's all about carving out a niche, becoming the go-to destination for certain sectors.
Exactly. Think about it.
Okay.
If you're a major player in logistics,
Right.
and you see this meticulously planned city with a brand new port, direct access to major highways and rail lines, even that bullet train connection,
Yep.
wouldn't that be incredibly attractive?
I can see that.
Or if you're in the film industry and you hear about a film city designed in consultation with top industry professionals offering those tax incentives and streamlined processes,
Right.
wouldn't you want to check it out?
It sounds like they're trying to create a buzz, generate excitement around these specialized zones.
That's exactly what they need to do to stand out in a crowded market.
Right.
It's not enough to just have a good plan.
No.
You have to sell that vision to the world. And from what we're seeing, they're putting a lot of effort into showcasing NAINA City's potential on a global stage.
But let's be realistic for a second. Even with the best laid plans, there are always challenges when it comes to large-scale infrastructure projects, especially in a country as complex as India.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of those potential roadblocks investors need to be aware of?
You're right. There are always hurdles to overcome. Bureaucracy is one navigating the regulatory landscape in India.
Right.
Securing all the necessary permits and approvals, that can be a slow and sometimes frustrating process.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Land acquisition is another big one.
Okay.
Consolidating land from hundreds of villages, ensuring fair compensation and resettlement for those affected.
Right.
That's a massive undertaking both logistically and socially.
And we can't forget about the environmental concerns where I talked about the eco-sensitive zone.
Yeah,
But there's always a risk that development can come at the expense of the surrounding ecosystem.
absolutely. Those environmental impact assessments, the proposed mitigation measures, those need to be scrutinized carefully.
Okay.
Investors need to hold the developers accountable, ensuring that sustainability isn't just a buzzword, but a core principle guiding every step of the project.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into NAINA City and this incredible corridor transforming the landscape between Mumbai and Gujarat, what are the key takeaways for our listener, the potential investor, trying to make sense of all this information?
First and foremost, define your own investment strategy.
Okay.
What's your timeline? What level of risk are you comfortable with?
Mm-hmm.
Are you drawn to those long-term high-reward opportunities like NAINA City?
Right.
Or do you prefer a more immediate play like Daman?
And if you're somewhere in between, there's Vadhavan.
Exactly.
Okay.
Once you've got that figured out, it's all about due diligence.
Right.
Dig into those development plans, the funding mechanisms, the targeted industries, scrutinize those environmental impact assessments, look at the track record of the developers
Do
involved.
your homework.
And don't forget, this is about more than just financial returns.
It is.
It's about being part of something transformative, something that has the potential to uplift communities, create jobs, and build a more sustainable future for India. Invest wisely, invest responsibly. And who knows, maybe we'll see you in NAINA City someday.
We've covered a lot of ground today exploring the potential, the challenges, the sheer excitement of what's happening in this corridor between Mumbai and Gujarat. It's a story that's still being written, and the decisions made today will shape the future of this region for generations to come. So keep thinking, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep asking those tough questions.